I will go over in more detail the importance and the value of georeferencing images into ArcGIS. And so I'm just starting with a new file that just has building parcels, Thornton streams, and the Thornton Creek watershed shapefile, just as kind of a beginning point, as well as it will make this my map run faster as we go through this process. So an additional layer that I'll be needing for this exercise is the shoreline layer for Seattle. And so I have that saved and downloaded from WAGDA. It will come when you download it. It'll be shoreline without the E. So I'm just going to drag that over. And now you can see the shoreline of Seattle. And it just provides you with just a nice line for that edge. I also went online and just Google searched for historic Seattle map and looked for a large kind of formatted one so that way I can get some decent details so make it easier to georeference. And I'm just going to drag that over. It's going to let me know that it doesn't have any spatial referencing. I'm just going to hit OK. It's going to close, kind of get our catalog out of the way, as well as close. So I'm just left with only the shoreline. Now I'm going to zoom to this layer and zoom in. So as you can see, it's a nice historic layer. It kind of gives me a nice edge of the different edges of the waterline. Shows me some nice detail about development, historic wet areas. And now I want to georeference that into my map, so that way it aligns. And so most likely the shoreline is a good element within this map to use to align to our existing line work, because obviously the shoreline probably in certain areas hasn't changed much, as well as we can begin to compare and contrast this shoreline to what we have here. So one thing I noticed is these little points located on our map and are could be good points to use for georeferencing our image into this one. So I'm going to zoom back to my image. I have my georeferencing toolbar activated. If you do not see that, go to Tools, Toolbars, Customize Toolbars, and go down to Georeferencing and make sure that's clicked. I then will make sure that the proper file that I want to georeference is highlighted in the toolbox, and then I'll click the Add Control Points button. So the first point that I'm going to use this point right here. Kind of at the apex of the edge of this part of Seattle, which is actually pretty accurate to what's visible in this map. So I'm just going to zoom in and click. Now I'm going to pick a second point. My second point is going to be, once again, down here at Alki Point. Click right about the apex. I'm going to zoom out. I'm going to come down here to the Alki Point. I want to click about at the apex. Let me drag my shoreline layer above this, and actually let's change it to have no fill and a nice bright red outline. So already we're beginning to see that this is beginning to get pretty accurately placed into our map. So next I'm going to come down here and I'm actually going to do this point, and I'm just going to click right at this edge and kind of eyeball it. Obviously the features are different, and so getting this perfectly exact won't be the easiest, but getting it pretty close will do us more than fine. So I'm just going to continue to go around and look for these kind of edge conditions that offer a unique point that I can then use to align my map with. So with that, I'm pretty happy with my projection. I could come in and I could get a little bit more refined here by trying to see exactly where this edge, and since we are working over in this area, it might be more ideal maybe to start here, or to kind of start georeferencing an element closer to where you want it to be the most accurate. I started over here, and so our accuracy probably is the best around this location. So once I'm done with my georeferencing, I'm just going to update the georeferencing button here, and now that image is located in my map. So I'm just going to kind of show you now what is the potential. So I'm just going to add my buildings, hit close. So now a tool that something we can do now, having this image georeferenced in the background, is we could then come in here, potentially start selecting buildings that fall within areas that were previously covered in water. We could also create a new layer in our catalog. So I could come over here, right click, create a new layer, a new shapefile, call it a polygon or a line or points. Or for this example, I would use a polygon, and I can actually recreate this entire shoreline. Or I could do that just as a simple polyline, and I can actually walk around and trace the historic shoreline here. You could also do that in Illustrator if you wanted to by exporting this into Illustrator, which would be equally as valuable. It all just depends on if you want to associate data with what you want to create, and then if you want to actually be able to begin to select elements with that, because sometimes that might be actually a more efficient way of doing it, is to be selecting things really kind of accurately in GIS rather than guessing or being more subjective in Illustrator.